In this video, we're going to look at Health, Safety and Legal Assessment Task 1, which is part of the Cert 3 in Fitness course. So for this task, the students need to walk around either the VFA classroom or ideally the VFA gym and identify at least 7 risks. They then need to fill in these risks in the risk assessment template that has been provided for them. Working in a group, they will then analyse and discuss each of the risks that they identified, rate the likelihood of these occurring and the consequence of each risk occurring. Now this is done as an observation, so the teacher will then also need to complete the rubrics at the end of this. If they notice any risks that are really important and could have a big impact on VFA as a whole, they need to let the instructor know straight away so that VFA can rectify these. If we have a look at the template, it's basically got a bit of a summary at the top which will help them complete it. On the second page, it's got space for them to write in what the hazard is and what the area is, the likelihood of that happening, the consequence if an accident does occur, and the risk level. So with the likelihood, they should rate that between 1 and 5 and then align that with what it says up the top. For the consequences, what is their explanation of what the consequence could be or their understanding of it, and again rate that between 1 and 5, and then use the table above to then put that into a risk level category. So for the example here, rubber square corners are exposed in the gym, which are a potential tripping hazard. The likelihood of that happening is medium. The consequence if that happens is that they could sprain their ankle or they could have a broken bone, which is in a level 3, and the risk level is a medium. So if we go up, they're saying the likelihood is possible. The consequence is moderate, so single injury with hospital treatment required, such as a broken bone. And if we have a look at the likelihood of a 3 and the consequence of a 3, that then becomes a medium risk. So once they've all filled that out, they can then go into the risk management plan. So for this, they will then have to use the hierarchy of control to decide what they will do, what they should do to control those measures to reduce the risk. If they do that, what's that new risk level? And then they need to be able to action it to a certain person and to give it a date when this needs to be addressed by. So if we have a look at the hierarchy of control, we have to decide whether we're going to eliminate and physically remove the hazard, substitute and replace the hazard, look at engineering controls and isolate people from the hazard, look at administrative controls to change the way that people work, or look at PPE to be able to protect the worker with personal protective equipment. So in that same example, elimination is going to be the best thing that we can do. And the simplest way to do that is to be able to make sure that all the squares are aligned so it doesn't become a tripping hazard. We could also look at substituting it by changing the flooring, but we've also got to look at what is more cost effective as well. Down the bottom of this is where they can write in the next section. So for part 4, they also need to provide a summary of the group discussion and upload that. So in groups, they're required to discuss the risks that they identified, describe the key areas of discussion, list the risks that they felt needed to be referred to a specialist or a higher authority and why. And that should be roughly 120 words. So just make sure that you're reminding students that this needs to be included as well, even though it's not actually specified on the template. The last part of this will then be the students implementing what they've identified. So again, the teacher will just need to be able to make sure that this is safely done, because for one of the assessments that are coming up, it's then going to ask them to reflect on these changes.